Adho Mukha Shavasana, downward facing dog. Let's explore a few different ways to get into this pose that some people really enjoy and love, but often when we're new to a yoga practice, we might find it a little bit challenging if there's tight muscles or shoulder impingement. For any different various reasons, you might find that this is not a pose that is that comfortable for you. So let's just explore a little bit how our body is positioned in this pose and see if we can come to a better understanding of it and help our body remember that. So the first thing I'd like you to do is come and sit down with your back against a wall, and then see if you can straighten out your legs. Good. All right. Make sure the knees are soft. So if you're finding that it's difficult to sit here like this and to get your back to touch the wall without pressing into it or anything, you don't need to round your back, just keep your back neutral. You might want to just bend the legs a little bit. So go ahead, explore that, see how that feels. And then from here, bring the palms forward so that you bring your shoulders into an external rotation and start to rise your arms up the wall to here. Good. And notice how that feels. If you find that it's more difficult with your arms up, that's perfectly normal. Again, bend the knees a little bit and you'll see that maybe it takes some of the strain off your hamstrings and off your lower back. So get as comfortable as you can and just see how that feels. So if I didn't have the wall, I would be in Dandasana and then rising the arms up. So that's kind of what we're looking at. And again, I'd rather see you with a neutral spine and the knees bent as much as you need to be, rather than forcing the legs to be straight and then having to round or flex the spine to compensate. Okay, so this would be preferable to that. And insofar as the shoulders and the arms, if you're not comfortable with the arms directly overhead, you could always open them up a little bit. All right, so that would be one pose that you could explore on your way to a better understanding of downward dog. Next one. From here, turn sideways. We're going to bring our legs up the wall into Viparita Karini. So take yourself really, really close to the wall. Snuggle in there. And then flip your legs up while you bring your upper body onto the mat and snuggle yourself into the wall. And again, if you need to bend the legs a little bit, that's perfectly fine. Externally rotate the shoulders, palms up to the ceiling, and sweep the arms up and over and reach. Notice how that feels. Do you need to bend the knees a little bit to make it feel more comfortable, to create more space in your spine, in the rib cage, in the neck? Notice especially the neck and the head. So if I were to show you this here, we want to have a neutral spine, which means there's lots of space here. There's a little bit of space right here as well. And you don't want to have your chin jutting up or tucking too far down. So make the main point of contact of your head be directly in line with your eye sockets. Okay, stay there for a few more moments. Again, explore if it's better with the knees bent or legs straight. Do you need to take the arms out a little bit? All right, from here. So if you think about it, in both those variations, we had a 90-degree flexion at the hip, right? Our body was at a right angle like this. So that's really what we're aiming for in our downward dog. So let's come into tabletop on all fours. Curl your toes. And then press the hips up. Begin with that. And then if you're comfortable, you can start to gradually push the heels down a little bit and straighten the legs. But I'll tell you, I always do this with my heels a little bit up and my knees soft and relaxed. So, come up from there. We're going to try it one more time in a moment. And I just want you to understand a couple of other little basic things about this posture. So, your hip joint can go into external and internal rotation. It's quite a wide range for most of us. So go ahead and explore that on each side. Good. And in your downward dog, what I'd like you to do is come to a little bit of an internal rotation. So you're going to fire up the inside of your legs, your inside muscles called your adductors, and I want you to just turn them in slightly. So think of that when you're in the pose. And then your shoulders can go to external and internal rotation. So as we rise the arms up, overhead, into arm flexion, shoulder flexion, we want to have a strong external rotation. Okay? So let's apply that now to our downward dog. Coming back into the pose. Coming into a little bit of an internal rotation of the hip and strong external rotation of the shoulders. Again, it's okay to lift the heels a little bit and bend the knees. So what I'd like you to think of is pulling the tailbone up. One of the ways I like to describe it is to imagine that your tailbone curls up and back towards your head. So instead of letting the hips drop, think of lifting them up high. Imagine that imaginary tail coming up and towards your head. And then one more thing. Notice how your head, your neck, and your arms are positioned. So I like to call this the shoulder, ear to bicep connection. When my shoulders are in external rotation, I like to be able to bounce my biceps right off my ears. That's what we're looking for in here as well. Now, again, that might not be comfortable for you with the arms directly overhead. Maybe you need to widen a little bit. So that's the last thing you can explore in here. Fire up those shoulders, externally rotate, and then let your neck get long. You should be looking down between your ankles. There you go. Okay, so you don't have the chin up. Don't drop the head too far, but try to find that bicep to ear connection. So those are just a couple of tips to help you better understand and develop a wonderful downward dog. Namaste.